Well, hello, my Jedi friends. Today we're going to discuss how do you deal with loneliness and isolation. Loneliness and isolation. I've even got a bit of a frosty backdrop now because I've listened to the comments and it feels like loneliness and dealing with loneliness is a big issue amongst you folks. So we talked about getting out of relationships with narcissists, but then there's that phase for those of you that have got out. It's like, what next? Am I on my own? Is this it? And some of you have told me it's like you and the cats or you and the dogs. This is very common, folks. It's very, very common. So let's start by looking at this from a much bigger perspective. This is one of the lesser known things, but the longest study that they've had into factors that affect longevity. In fact, you can find TED Talks on this, folks. And there's a TED talk that talks about the longest study where they've taken two demographics of people and they studied them throughout their life, asking them detailed questions about their life to try and establish what contributes to longevity. And they took one from a disadvantaged area, one from a very advantaged area, and they've studied them. And I think it's been going for about 80 years. They're now interviewing people of the next generation, and the only link that they've been able to find that is an indicator of longevity is the amount of meaningful connections that we have in our life. People that have good friends and good family into their older age are far more likely to want to live. And this makes sense to me on many different levels because I can tell you that the two biggest mortality times of life are 6 months after retirement and 6 months after the loss of a life partner. So often people lose the will to live when their nearest and dearest die, or they're not there anymore, or they don't have any reason to get out of bed, or they don't have any connection. And here's something obscure, folks. Here's something a little bit more obscure because part of my journey has taken me into the financial world. And part of that was really exploring the motivations that angel investors have to invest. And the main reason that angel investors invest in startups, I know it's a very obscure fact, but this is part of my journey, folks. The main reason that angel investors invest is for a reason to get out of bed and to have fun. So it's not even the viability of the business for anyone that watched Dragon's Den or Shark Tank. That's not it, folks. It's not it. Reason to get out of bed, fun, connection, something meaningful in their life. And the second reason is not even making money is not even the top two reasons. The second reason that they invest, angel investors, not VCs, folks. Angel investors, the second reason that they invest is to give something back. People look to do good. Once they've had good done to themselves, they look to do good for others. So this is a slightly more hopeful stat on life. On life and love, folks, life and love. So this is one reason why I'm going to tell you, whatever state you're in at the moment, whether you're in a toxic relationship or whether you're just out of one, your friends are gold in this journey. Friends are gold. And it's never too late to even reach out to people that were friends. It's very easy to lose contact along the way. Very easy, folks. But with your really good connections, what I find is that there's no such thing as a timeline. I can go years and not talk to some of my good friends. And if we meet tomorrow, the timeline just fuses and we pick up where we left off. Your good friends you'll have this with. Maybe you're thinking you don't have good friends. So this is another topic that we're talking about, loneliness and isolation. So let's start with the worst case scenario here. Worst case scenario, you feel completely cut off. You feel completely isolated. Maybe you've lost trust in human beings. Maybe you've lost faith in humanity. Now, for an empath, this is completely normal at the moment because the way that the world is going, it's looking a little bit mad. It's looking lunatic out there, folks. Why would you want to help humanity? Bollocks to them. I understand it. I understand it from an empath point of view. That sometimes it's just easier not to have anything to do with human beings right now. I get it. I get it. And an empath that's come out of an abusive relationship newly out will probably just the first thing on your mind will be, I'm never, ever, 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 ever going back into that. And so the protective wall goes up, and then you start judging the whole of humanity the same way. So, what's really important in this journey, folks, is to realize that there are people like you. Because you've drawn narcissistic, psychopathic personalities into relationships, you had to do that for a reason. The empath needed to toughen up. You needed to toughen up. You needed a narcissist or an idiot or a bastard or a bitch. Replace this word with whatever you want, because coming out of a toxic relationship or a seemingly difficult relationship, you will have your own terminology for what that was. And I've heard it all, folks. I've heard it all. So the bottom line is, uh, it's really important. It's really important. I've found in relationships, people go through extremes, extreme trust at the beginning of one relationship, and then extreme caution at the other. And this flip between two complete polar opposites, we lose this place in the middle where we now learn to identify toxic relationships. We learn to identify narcissists, psychopathic behavior. You learn to read it. You learn to grow. You learn to say no. This is the journey for the empath, the skill set that you never had before you were abused, or before you got into a toxic relationship, or before that you had to deal with any of this nonsense. It's easy to go to the other extreme. I see groups of people now, these rising groups of people of women that hate men. Now that's insane in my world, because if you're going to paint all men with the same brush, then that's lunatic. And men that hate women, exactly the same. Groups. We segregate ourselves, put ourselves into little categories. Folks, there are idiots in every single demographic of life. If you're a man, you're a woman. If you're putting people into religious groups, there's idiots in everyone. And not only that, folks, here's the big reveal. There's good people everywhere. It's easy to ignore them if you've come out of an abusive relationship. So every single sector of life, every segment, every religion, every sex in life has good people. It's just very easy to blanket label people. Don't lose that, folks. If you're watching this, you're probably a healer and an empath that's gone through a tough relationship, that's toughened up and is now seeing things a lot through a lot more hardened eyes than before. This is very normal, folks. Very normal. But tarring everyone with the same brush is not going to serve you. It's not going to serve anyone else. And it's not going to put you in touch with the things that make your heart sing. You had to traverse these polarities. You had to go from extreme empathy and trust to absolute cynicism. Maybe you had everything taken away from you. Maybe somebody ripped you off. Maybe your business partner siphoned the bank account. Maybe your other partner took the wife and kids. Maybe you've been left with nothing. Very common, folks. Very common. We all had to have the crash down, the dark night of the soul. This is so important in the waking up process. And it's not until you get through it that you realize that. But in getting through it, that could be a long and lonely journey, a long and lonely journey, and it's easy to lose trust in humanity. So here's the first thing. Here's an exercise. Let's stop talking about it. Let's give you something to work with now. So if you are that person, lonely, you haven't got in touch with anyone, I want you to think about your whole life, and I want you to write a list of people, even if you've had no contact with them for decades, of people that you lost touch with, that you trusted, that you do trust. Maybe there are people you trust. Maybe there's friends that you haven't spoken to for a while. Maybe you've isolated yourself. Maybe you were in that narcissistic relationship and your good friends had enough of it and moved away from you. Who are those people? Who are they? Is there anyone you trust? Now, if you're an empath, of course there is. You've just been through a dark night of the soul and you've toughened up a bit. but maybe you've toughened up too much. So we talk about the toughening up phase. Now we need the let's find the middle ground phase. You needed to toughen up. That was a good thing. If you get too tough, too cynical, put everybody in the same category, that's where things go rogue for you folks. And that's when you will feel isolated and lonely. So list the people in your life, whether you've had anything to do with them or not. Find the people that you did trust. Find the people that you lost contact with. Now, maybe you'll never find them. Maybe they're even dead, folks. You never know. But this is just an exercise in who did I trust and what did I look for? In exactly the same way that you now have the tough exterior if you've gone through a narcissistic relationship or you've got out of one of those or you've had the house taken away or you've lost access to your kids, all the most extreme things that could happen to you here. If those things have happened, it's important, really important, that you learn to see narcissism, but also that you learn to identify good people in your radar. Because we've got two families, and this is another message that I hope comes through with this channel regularly. Family that you were born with, and your spirit family, your light family. People in this lifetime that you were meant to connect with when the time is right, when you're ready to embrace your purpose. And if you don't know what your purpose is, if you feel lost in the field, if you feel isolated, if you feel lonely, it's time to explore that. So here's another exercise for you. If you had to go and learn a new skill, what would it be? Because you're never too old to learn. And my grandmother learned philosophy in her late 80s, and she died when she was 90. At 88, she took a course in philosophy. Here's something else, folks. She was registered blind and took artists. She was an artist right up until the last year of her life. So there's no boundaries to stuff that you can do. And she taught me that more than anyone else. Nothing stopped this woman from going out and being curious. She took a computer studies course when she was 87. Computer studies at 87. That's my grandmother. It's never too late, folks. You can always go out and meet people. There's always opportunities to meet like-minded individuals. Find what you love, find what you're interested in, find your passion and find a course. Now, people asked me about this. You can go online and search it. There's a website called eventbrite.com, EVENTBRITE, eventbrite.com. Now, they've got local events all over the world. That's one of the places I use. I've run events on Eventbrite, and you can find out what's near you. Go and have a search. Go and have a look around. Go and find the local gatherings. Get out of your comfort zone here, folks, because now that you've toughened up, you've got through those tough relationships. It's even harder for the empath once you've hit that point to then go back to your true core essence, which is empathy, which is connecting with like-minded souls. Now you're going in with your eyes open now. You know what to look for. You know what a narcissist is. You know what a psychopath is. You know the behaviors. And if you don't know all the behaviors, then stick on this channel because I list all of them. All of them. Good people are out there. And just because you've ended up with a few assholes, don't let them stop you from enjoying the rest of your life and meeting good people and making meaningful friendships. Because the best friends that I've made, I still in contact with a lot of people that I trained with, that I did my nurse training with. And that was back in 1992 is when I started that. Friends for life. Friends for life that I've met through there that still stay in touch. Good people. My Reiki course, Friends for Life, I met there. Other courses, energy work, meditation retreats, Friends for Life. Good people attract to good things. Now, especially healers, if you're doing like advanced spiritual practices, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole and things like channeling, you'll find a whole host of interesting people if you go to courses like that. If you want more ideas, well, I'm full of them, folks, because I've been on all sorts. Personal development. I went to the Tony Robbins weekend. I've seen that. That was certainly interesting. There's good people everywhere. There's also arseholes everywhere, folks. Let's be real about this. But just because you've had a rough ride with a few arseholes, don't cut off the opportunity to meet the good people out there who you were meant to connect with. You were meant to connect with them. So, this video is just to encourage you to get out of your comfort zone. Book yourself on a course. Get on a travel holiday. Get on a singles travel holiday and just get out and do what it is that you want to do. If it's a spa retreat, if it's a walking holiday, if it's something, just get out there on a course, do something. Trust yourself. Enjoy your life a little bit more. So there you go, folks. There's just a few things to address because I am noticing on my comments on the demographic here that people are feeling lost, lonely, and isolated. And hopefully this will give you something to think about to start to jolt your world in a bitter direction. No, I hope it doesn't catapult you in a bitter direction. I hope it's going to catapult you from a bitter direction to a better direction, from bitter to better. Maybe that should be the title of this video, folks. It's amazing what me bollocksing up my terminology can do. Accidentally stumble across hidden gems. So if you want to go from bitter to better, folks, and you're still watching this, well, I've given you a few suggestions. If you want some more, if you've got any questions, you know the drill, folks. Get involved in the comments. The comments here, I do read them. I do read them. I read all of the comments. And I respond to most of them, folks. I respond to most of the comments. So do leave your comments here if you've got any questions, or just get out there, book yourself on a course, do something a little bit different, adventure out, folks. And it may be something that you couldn't do it because who's going to look after the cats? Well, find somebody to do that or get them there to a place that looks after cats, folks. We can make a lot of excuses not to do stuff. But the fact is, you will be better for your pets if you're in a better mental space. So there you go, folks. Something to think about today, something to get your head around, something that hopefully offers you a beacon of hope to move your life in a better direction if you are feeling lost, lonely, or isolated. So there you go, my Jedi friends. And remember, the practice of introspection and being on your own is one of the Jedi skill sets. Being comfortable with your own company is a good thing. But unless you want to be a monk in the mountain, then it does help to get out occasionally and socialize. You might not want to do it for much, but you might want to do it. Otherwise, you're going to feel more lonely and isolated where you're at. Anyway, folks, there you go. Enough of my ramblings. You know the drill now. If you're finding me for the first time and you're still watching, then I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel, which you can do there. There's going to be more my little musings just there, folks. But whatever you're doing, however you're feeling, and however desolate it feels right now, you're just one decision away from a much better life.